Today I want to teach you about getting rid of pneumonia because this new coronavirus out of Wuhan, along with SARS and MERS, all of them, and even the influenza in our country, ends up causing respiratory problems. What is a respiratory problem? Well, that's a problem with congestion or inflammation in the lungs. So when you understand what it is and you understand how to correct it, you won't be afraid of it. And secondly, when you start to have problems and get congested in your chest, rather than run to the hospital or run to the doctor in fear, you'll simply lay down on your back with your legs elevated and you'll beat on your chest, or you use a percussor and you just knock it out of yourself. You'll cough a lot, you'll choke up a little bit, and you'll cough it out. But you see, when you understand how it is, how it works, then you're not afraid of it any longer. So how does it work in the lungs? Well, how do we get oxygen into our blood in our lungs? Well, it's pretty simple. Air goes into our lungs, and inside of our lungs we have little fingers, little tentacles, and on the end of those we have these little things that look like little pods of grapes. They're called alveoli. Or alveoli, I'm sorry, I pronounced it wrong. They're called alveoli. And what happens when they get inflamed, lymph fluid runs to them to heal them and starts filling them up. Well, when they're full of lymph fluid, they can no longer exchange oxygen and CO2. So when they can't exchange it anymore, pretty soon we don't have enough oxygen in our blood. And there's two things in our body that use the most oxygen. Number one is our eyes, and number two is our brain. Well, when our brain runs out of oxygen, guess what happens? It starts to fall apart. And if it falls apart very much, it doesn't work anymore, and we had a problem. So what is pneumonia? Pneumonia is an inflammation of the lungs. It's an inflammation of the alveoli that causes the alveoli to pick up fluid, and when they pick up fluid, they're no longer empty. Well, how does that work anyway? Well, we have lots of capillaries in our lungs, and the capillaries run along next to the alveoli. And when we inhale, the alveoli pull oxygen out, they put oxygen into the blood and pull out carbon dioxide, CO2. So when they're full of liquid, they can't do that. Well, how did I learn all this stuff? Well, let me give you a little history. Okay, back 30-some years ago, I was president of a medical corporation. I worked with the Food and Drug Administration. I worked with NIH. As a child, I lived near Walter Reed Hospital, and if you don't know, Walter Reed Hospital is the premier hospital in the Department of Defense. In fact, that's where presidents go if they have a problem. That's where Melania Trump went when she had an issue, because it's the primo hospital. Well, when I was 13, one of my buddies, little buddies back then, mother worked there, so I studied jiu-jitsu at Walter Reed. Well, I have a tremendous amount of appreciation for that hospital. So after a few years with the medical corporation, I realized that the foundation, the basic problem with degenerative disease is lack of oxygen. In fact, I wrote a booklet called Oxygen Deprivation Syndrome. So how do you increase oxygen in the body? Well, what I learned was that massage increases circulation and flexibility. So I went back to college. I got involved with anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology. I got trained as a certified personal trainer with the International Dance Exercise Association many years ago, while they still certified personal trainers, and I became a massage professional, and I worked on over 30,000 people over the period of time. And I did that for one reason: to increase circulation and get more oxygen into the tissue, because the more oxygen we have in our tissue, the healthier we become. Well, I started teaching massage, and some of my students were registered nurses. One of them was retired from the military, and she had explained to me how to get rid of pneumonia, what they did in the field when she was out on the front lines. You know, when our military has a service member become incapacitated, they want to get them back in the fight as quick as they can. Well, I've got to tell you, the doctors in the Department of Defense are the most phenomenal doctors on the planet, in my opinion, and they figured a way to get rid of pneumonia in just a couple days, or even a few hours. So she taught me how to get rid of pneumonia. Now, what I'm going to teach you is not mine. It came directly from the military. All of the credit goes to the military. I mean, when I think about the increased military budget, I think back of things like this. Did you know that when my family came over here on the Mayflower, and two of my ancestors did, the natives that were here taught them about the two blood systems. Well, do we have two blood systems? Well, yes, we do. But it wasn't until 1961 that Dr. Arthur Guyton, who's written probably the most famous medical books that the colleges use today, started studying the other blood system. We call it today the lymph system. Well, he took it to the medical boards and nobody would touch it. So he took it to the military. Matter of fact, he took it to Walter Reed. And guess where they started studying the lymph system? In the military. Well, what is that fluid that gets into the alveoli? It's lymph. What is it that carries oxygen to the cells? It's not the capillaries, it's the lymph system. The lymph system, the red blood system leaks into the capillaries take everything to the cells, come back into the thoracic duct, and come back into the red blood system. So these are just fundamental basic things that will help you. Well, let me tell you another couple things that will really help you. Do you know that viruses can't live on copper? If a virus lands on copper, boom, it dies. Well, if a bacteria lands on silver, boom, it dies. So I want to give you access to nanoparticle silver and nanoparticle copper, among other things. I also want to give you access to a percussor, because a percussor will increase it'll make the breaking the liquid loose from your alveoli go a lot faster. Now, when I bought my first percussor, it was like $600 or $700. That was years ago. And now, I mean, I found them on Amazon.com for like $60, $70. Up to, you can still buy one for $2,500, but you don't need to do that. All you need is something that's going to vibrate your chest, vibrate your lungs, so that it's just like if you shake a bottle, it's got fluid in it. You can shake it up. Some of it will escape. Well, it's the same way with the alveoli. If you can shake them up, some of that fluid shakes out of them. And if there's less fluid in them, guess what? They start to exchange oxygen and CO2. They start working again. Well, the inflammation in the lungs only lasts a little while. You know that if you have an inflamed arm or an inflamed joint or an inflamed muscle, how long does the inflammation last? It may last a few days and then it's gone, right? Same way in your lungs. If you can just keep going for just enough time for that inflammation to leave, you beat pneumonia. Well, 18 years ago, I had pneumonia so bad that at the time my wife planned my funeral, notified all my friends. Will's going to be gone this week. Get ready to come to his funeral. Well, I'm still here, but I wouldn't be here if I hadn't learned what I'm going to teach you today. So this is really important, and I want you to get this out to everybody. Now, mainly the reason I'm trying to get it out now is because we know what's going on in China with this coronavirus, and people are dying by the thousands with pneumonia. Well, I want you to have no fear of a pneumonia. You're going to be so certain about pneumonia that if pneumonia happened to get a hold of you, you're simply going to do what I'm going to teach you, and you're going to overcome it. And you're going to teach it to your family. If your wife or your husband or your kids gets pneumonia, you're just simply going to do this for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, whatever it takes, for them to cough out all this liquid. And if you have to do it every day for 2 or 3 days, that's okay. They're going to be fine. They don't have to take any medications. If it's a viral pneumonia, antibiotics don't do any good anyway. They only work on bacteria. They don't work on viruses. Now, sometimes this pneumonia is followed by a bacteria, so I'm not saying that it's not wise to maybe have an antibiotic if you have a really bad pneumonia, but normally, if it's a viral pneumonia, and coronavirus is a virus. MERS was a virus. SARS was a virus. These are viruses. Now remember, what can't viruses live on? They can't live on copper. So if you were to drink some nanoparticles of copper and get that copper in your system, guess what it does to the viruses? It knocks their socks off. Now, I want to give you access to all of these things. Besides that, I really want to give you everything I've got, because I've got 75 years of learning, and I've been blessed to work with some of the top medical doctors of the world. And so I've been like a sponge, learning and learning and learning. So if I had a problem, let's say if I had a problem sleeping, I know that I have to turn on my parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest system. Well, if I had a problem with digestion, I can teach you how to turn on your parasympathetic nervous system and digest your food better. If you had cancer, now my dad got cancer years ago. In fact, he got cancer in 1969. And I learned everything I could learn about cancer. Well, here's what I learned. Cancer is anaerobic. It can't live in oxygen. If you can get oxygen into the cancer cells, they die. Well, how do you do that? Well, that's why I got into the massage field, because I learned that I could massage a person's muscles, increase their circulation, oxygen would get into their tissue, and a lot of things would disappear. Well, I can teach you a lot of things about cancer, but understand this. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not a doctor. I'm not planning to be one, and I literally can't make a penny off of anything I'm telling you, because if I did, they'd charge me with practicing medicine without a license, and I'm not licensed to practice medicine. But I can tell you one thing. I'm 75 years old, and I've got 75 years worth of knowledge, and I've been with the best of the best, and all I want to do is share that with you. So I want you to understand pneumonia. I want you to understand that viruses are viruses. Influenza is bacterial. Viruses are viruses. If you have influenza, did you know that in 1917, 80,000 people died from the byproduct of influenza in the United States? What is the byproduct of influenza? It's pneumonia. It's a respiratory disease problem. Now, it's bacterial. So influenza you can use antibiotics on, because it's not a virus, it's a bacteria. So I hope you're getting some of this, because I've got 12 pages of notes here, and I would love to give these to you if you'll just drop me a note to Will at the 4 Cups, TheFourCups.com, Will at the4cups.com, and just on the subject line put pneumonia, and I'll give you everything I've got. I'll give you access to everything I've got. As a matter of fact, I'll even connect you up with a phenomenal teaching from England, a Dr. Campbell, that he does the best job I've ever heard of explaining how the lungs work. And it's simple. It's like 10 minutes. And you can absolutely be assured that you'll understand and know how the lungs work. And then you'll know how pneumonia works. And if you know how it works, then you can know how to beat it. It's just like playing a game. If you play a game and you know the rules and you master the rules, you can win the game. Well, I want you to master the rules on pneumonia. If pneumonia happens to come into your body, I want you to laugh at it and say, get out, and just knock it out. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to lay down here on the floor, and I'm going to show you. And you just do as I do. And it's really simple. It's not complicated. So you lie on your back. You put your calves up on a chair. Now you can use a pillow under your head. You don't have to lay flat. And you cup your hands and you beat your chest. Now you can do it yourself, or you can have a family member do it. And if you have inflammation in your lungs, you're going to start coughing, and you're going to start coughing this stuff up. And pretty soon it's going to be out of there. And you're going to be better in just a couple days. And you're going to be back to work, and everything's going to be fine. So I hope you got a little bit of this. Now I want to give you a couple other things, because I've got some props up here on the shelf. I've got a tennis ball here. And if you have sciatic problems with your leg, you have sciatic pain, you can take a tennis ball, you can put it in the hollow place in your hip and rub it up against the wall, and you can knock out sciatica. And you'll be amazed what'll happen really, really quickly. Now, if you have a problem with your feet or your heels and you have plantar fasciitis, you can pick up a little 6-ounce Coke bottle and you put it on the floor, and you just roll the arch of your foot across that Coke bottle. Let me get it back here where you can see it. And you just roll your foot, and it'll fix that for you. So there's so many things that you can do for yourself if you just knew how. And they're not complicated. Now, I'm not knocking doctors. Hey, they're great. For trauma, they're unbelievable. But a lot of the things that happen to us, we can fix ourselves if we just knew how. So if you want all this information, just drop me a note to will@the4cups.com, and on the subject line put pneumonia, and I'll send you everything I've got. So thanks.